right, so welcome to our intermediate class today. And this week the theme is on action, acting. And the idea comes, the idea of the theme itself comes from a text called the Bhagavad Gita, which some of you may have heard of. It's one of the primary sort of texts of yoga philosophy, along with the Yoga Sutras that I'm often quoting from. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the wisdom is that whether we actually do something or we don't do something, it's an action, right? So procrastination is an action. And the word action in Sanskrit, it translates a few different ways, but one way it translates is karma. And you've probably heard of the word karma. And karma is the idea that all actions have a result, right? So it's not like you do bad and you're going to get bad. Sometimes we do something bad and something good as a result. So it's not like a one for one, but it is that every action has some kind of result to it. So inaction, doing nothing, has an impact, right? As well as acting. So when we do nothing, we can sometimes not get the result we want. We can also sometimes not get the result we want by acting. But the idea is that when we put ourselves out in the world, when we take action for our goals and our desires, that we're setting a process in motion. And I know a lot of people feel like they need to know what the end goal is really firmly and all of the steps along the way. But what I found in life is that I have an idea of the end goal and I take the first step towards it, but it may shift in that process, right? So I take a step and all sorts of new options open, and then I choose and I take another step and more options open. And so where you think you're going in the start may not be where you end up, and that's okay. That's okay too, but we don't want to get stopped from taking action because we can't clearly see the end goal, right? So we take a step, we take another step, and we go from there. So it's that idea that we need to act to put our desires and our plans into motion. Sitting back and doing nothing isn't actually going to get us where we want to go. It will often take us away from where we want to go. So we're going to explore that a little bit today. We're going to hold that intention of creating action through our practice and do some poses that ask us to bring a little fire into our practice. So we're going to start seated. You can sit comfortably on your mat or on a cushion or on a chair, and I'll see you there. So getting comfortable. And take a moment to feel settled. So we've been looking all session at the idea of creating more resilience for the first sort of half of the classes, and now we've been moving into how can we not just sort of survive, but how can we thrive? So last week we explored the question, what do you really want? Right? So we can't thrive in our life if we're pointing in a direction where we don't want to go. So last week we contemplated the question, what do you really want? And perhaps that question has been sitting with you this week, and perhaps you have some idea of what you really want. And if you don't, if you're still confused as to what you really want, and that's also really normal, you might just continue to pose that question this week. What do I really want? So take a moment, tune in. What do you really want? Let your breath create a little space. Breathing in, breathing out. Feeling your sit bones supporting you. Continuing to ask the question, what do I really want? So today I invite you to imagine one small, tiny step that you could do towards your goal. So for instance, my goal of having a new website, one tiny first step might be making a small list of people who could help me with that, doing some research. Maybe spending 10 minutes and Googling. So we want to make that one step really doable, really digestible, and really pertinent. So what is one small step that you could ideally do today, or at least this week? The tiniest step you can imagine taking toward this goal, this image of what you really want. And then I invite you to really anchor this action by imagining yourself doing this thing that you've come up with. And if you still haven't come up with something, that's okay. You can just imagine yourself doing anything that feels nurturing or good to you. So maybe it's just having a few more vegetables or drinking a little bit more water today. So there's one act that you can do that will take you toward your goal or the nurturing and support.
Hey, Carolyn, your audio's not working.
So you're not able to hear me, Kim?
Now I can.
Okay. Just thank you for letting me know. If there's another issue, let me know, and I'll just keep going for now and hope that it's okay. Thanks. So again, palms together, hands down, backs of the hands together, rolling around, out, rolling over, around. So you can continue a few times like that, and then reverse. So backs of the hands, or sorry, backs of the hands come together as the fingertips come in, around, down, and back to the heart. And so going out and back in, and then you can again add a little pressure, feeling the wrists, the hands, the arms waking up. And if you want a little bit more stretch here, you can try keeping the bases of your fingers together and letting the heels of your hands come apart. So you're getting a little more stretch up into the fingers. And then a few circles. So releasing the hands and circling. One way and then the other. And then letting the hands come to rest on your thighs. And let's take a moment to feel the energy in the hands and the arms that we've woken up a little bit with that movement. You might feel a bit of tingling, a bit of energy. So always coming back to these resilience tools of bringing our awareness back to the body, back to the breath. Lots of tools that we've uncovered over the last several weeks. Just always coming back to our center. Right, with your hands resting on your thighs or knees, and you can be on a chair or on the floor, doesn't matter. We'll do a few circles. So letting the torso circle over the legs, moving slowly and tuning into what you notice, what you feel, what you're aware of. Again, bringing in that resourcing tool, felt sense, tuning into the body. When we tune into the body and what's going on, it's not for any real purpose of trying to change anything, but in this case, it's really about just being present with ourselves and getting out of our minds. Great, and then eventually coming back to the center. We'll do a little cat-cow movement. So inhale, arching, exhale, rounding. And we're going to add in some arm movements. So as you inhale and lift the chest, you can lift the arms into a kind of cactus position. And then as you exhale, you can bring the hands together, maybe bring the elbows together, let the head come down. So we're inhaling and opening, elbows down, chest lifting, and then elbows and hands coming towards each other as you exhale. A couple more like that. Great. And after the last time, you end up with the arms open wide. You can stay there and then release. Great, and then we'll come off the chair or cushion if you happen to be on a cushion or a chair, coming right to the ground and letting the feet come out in front of you. Hands can support you from behind, and a little movement for the hips. So going one way, going the other. As you go to one side, you might lift the opposite hand to honor that shoulder if necessary. Send your hips back when you start to crawl forward, or crawl forward with your hips. Great. Beautiful. And then let's come back to the center. And we'll come around to all fours. So from all fours, arching your back as you breathe in. And then rounding or moving to child's pose as you breathe out. Moving at your own pace. If child's pose is comfortable for you, feel free to take a rest in child's pose for a few breaths. Encourage you to really tune into your breath here. It's another one of those resilience tools to calm the nervous system, is to bring your focus to your breath, and letting the breath be easeful and natural. If it's available to you, you might imagine or feel the breath moving in the back of your body as you rest here. And then when you feel ready, we'll come back up to all fours. And I invite you to turn your toes under and give your your feet a little bit of a stretch. So if you like, you can send your weight back towards your feet a little bit to stretch the arches of your feet and then release so you're not overdoing it. And this depends on how tight your feet feel. So if it's really intense stretch, you're going to go a little more forward, a little less back. And if you want more stretch, you can spend a little more time in that back position, a little less time releasing. And if you want even more stretch, you can start to bring a little more weight over your feet by walking your hands back, bringing your hands onto your thighs and sitting over your feet. But know that this can be quite intense. And so keeping your hands on the ground is a great way to alleviate bringing tension into this position. So from here, we're going to make our way into a squat. So you can press your weight back, bring your hands by your knees and lift your knees. Now just make sure that this is okay for your knees. So if your knees are not happy in this position, you might come up to a slightly higher position where your knees have a little more space. So coming up to this squat, you want to try to have your the balls of your feet and your toes are on the ground, not necessarily your heels. And we'll bring the hands inside the legs. Great. And actually, if the feet are about hip distance apart, is good. So you might need to come down, just take the feet just a little apart so the knees can come apart. And that's it. And then you can start to bring your heels in towards each other, knees apart. Great. And then the other option here is to take the feet even wider and shift. So one heel comes down and you're on the ball of the other foot. Shift. So the other heel comes down, you're on the ball of the opposite foot, and go side to side. So the feet will need to be a little wider for this. So you can play around here. Great. Coming to the center, if it's available to you, you can try bringing both heels down. The result is often, whoops, to sit right down. But if you can, and I know some of you will find this easier than others, depends on a lot of different factors here. Heels down. And then from there, you can start to lift up into a forward bend, bringing the feet in underneath the hips, softening the knees, softening the low back. And then we'll bring the hands to the shins and come about halfway up. So you're inhaling into that half forward bend, exhaling and releasing. Inhaling, half forward bend, exhale, release. All right, and then when you're ready, we'll come all the way up, reaching overhead, and exhaling to release the arms. All right, as you come upright, you can take the feet apart a little bit. Hands can come to the hips, and we'll do a few, again, slow circles with the hips. Tuning in, noticing and being aware of all the sensations, how they shift and change. Be curious, be interested. At some point, you'll switch directions and just as slowly, just as mindfully circling the other way. Right, coming back to the center, and let's bring the feet in so that they're about hip distance. Coming to mountain pose, feeling the heels sink down, the heart lift, the shoulders drop back, the crown of the head lifting. And feel the groundedness of this pose, the strength of this pose, the presence of this pose. And bring back into your mind that thing that you would like to act on, ideally today, but sometime this week. We'll take the arms, turn the palms out, take a big breath in, raising the arms, bringing the palms together and bringing the hands back to the heart, pausing there to really picture yourself taking this one small action. And an action can look like something really active. It can also look like something not active at all, right? Just keeping our mouths closed sometimes is a huge action that has a massive impact in the world. Right, let's take a breath in, reaching up. And exhale, sending the arms back down to your sides. So we're going to play around a little bit with a pose called crow pose, which is a hand balance pose. And you may or may not come into the full pose today, and that's not required. But know that it is a fairly challenging pose, and you want to take it step by step. So we'll go through the steps, and if you go into the full pose, great. If not, there's lots of ways of engaging with this pose and being active and taking action without going all of the way into the pose. So if you want, you can watch for a moment. If you're familiar with this pose, you can just come along with me. We're going to start from mountain pose. Take a breath in, reaching up. Exhaling, bend your knees slightly and bring your hands toward the ground. And then we're going to come, I like to take my feet just a little wider here, actually, toes slightly turned out as I come down into a squat. And that allows my knees to move out to the side. So you want to have your knees wider than your arms. And then we'll place the palms down on the mat. And then from here, just try bending your elbows back toward your legs. So you're dipping down and coming back. Dipping down, coming back. And that's step two, really. Step one is just coming to this position. So if you're in this position and that feels like enough, great. You can go back to maybe bringing one heel down and the other, or you can start this little action of bending the elbows back towards your body and letting your weight come more towards your hands. Great. And then from there, if you still want more, and if your wrists get tired, you can always pop down to child's pose and rest there for a moment. I'll turn to the side to show you the next step. So here, bending the arms back, I'm placing I want to try and get low enough to place my shins across my upper arms. There's a few different ways to do this pose, but this is the way that I find the easiest. And then from here, you can kind of lift your hips a bit and put a little more weight onto your hands. And then shift back. All right, so we're just lifting, feeling the pressure, and sometimes it can feel like a lot of pressure on the back of your arms, so you may not want to go further than this today, that's fine. And then if you're here and you feel confident, you might lift one foot, maybe lift the other foot, and come back out. So we're just moving toward, moving away, moving toward, moving away. If this is an easy pose for you, or if you feel like you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, as you start to bring the weight onto your arms, onto your hands, you want to look towards the edge of your mat, looking up slightly, lifting one foot, and maybe lifting the other. Coming out, letting the feet lower. Now I do recommend, if you haven't done the full pose, if you're not sure about your balance, have some crash pads, maybe a bolster, some blankets around you. It's not very often that people do sort of fall forward in this pose. Usually one arm will sort of go to the side, one arm will give out. You can always keep your feet under you or do any of those steps that lead you to this place. So you don't have to go to the full pose. Okay. So I'll give you another minute or two to play around if you want to. Try again, bending the elbows back towards the knees. You want the lower legs out on an angle so they come across your upper arm. And then maybe one or both feet can lift. So it's a challenging pose. Enjoy the journey. Each step, each little action has that role of taking you closer to the end goal of the pose. So when you feel complete with that, we're going to come back to a forward bend. So just lifting the hips from your squat. Bring your hands to your shins or your knees. Come halfway up with a breath in. Fold and release forward as you exhale. Repeat that a few more times. And next time you're coming up, rather than coming up just halfway, come up all the way. Reaching overhead. And releasing down. And coming back to mountain pose. Feeling your heels go down. Heart lift, shoulders back, crown lifting. Taking the arms to the sides, take a big breath in, reach up. Bringing the hands together at the heart, pause there, and picture that one small act. Taking action toward your goal. And then we'll bring our effort into a sun salutation. So from here, you can breathe in and lift. Exhale, big circle as you come forward into a standing forward bend. And then inhale, coming halfway up again. And exhale, fold forward. And let's take the right leg, step back into a nice easy lunge. Pause here for a breath. For those of you who want a little more, you can bring your hands up onto your front knee or reach overhead. From here, we'll make our way to downward dog. So hands come down, stepping back. And into downward dog, soft knees, maybe walking your feet in place here. And then lowering your knees to the earth, breathing in, taking the back into a little arched position, then exhale, child's pose. Take a few breaths in child's pose, whatever version is good for you. And then coming back up to all fours, breathing in. And then exhaling, coming again into downward dog. And then from here, we'll take the right foot, whichever foot you stepped back with, we'll take it forward. So now we're in lunge on the opposite side. You can stay in the low lunge or work your way upwards, first hands to the knee or straight up overhead. And then from here, hands come down. We'll step forward. Take a breath in and bring your hands to your shins, lengthening and then releasing with an exhale. Coming all the way up, breathing in again. Gathering your hands together overhead and bringing them back into your heart. Beautiful. Take a couple of breaths here. We'll do one more sun salutation. So when you're ready, releasing. Big breath in. Bring the hands all the way down through the body to the earth. Exhaling as you go, and then inhaling to lengthen in that half forward bend. Exhaling, release. So if you step back with the right foot last time, you'll step back with the left this time. Any version of lunge that you prefer. Pause for a breath here. And then into your downward dog. Again, you can walk on the spot, softening the knees, pressing into the hands, drawing the elbows in towards each other to create some space in your upper back. So the shoulders drawing down from the ears, and shoulder blades widening. When you're ready, we'll lower the knees, come to all fours. Little arch in the back as you breathe in, and then exhaling to fold into child's pose for a few breaths. And then from child's pose back to all fours. From all fours back into downward dog. And again, whichever foot stepped back earlier in this round, you're going to step forward with that same foot. And then whatever version of lunge is right for you. Hold in for a breath or two. And then hands come forward as you step forward. Inhaling to arch. Soft knees, exhaling to release, forward bend. Inhaling, coming all the way up. Hands coming together and back to the heart. Big breath in and then exhale, release back to Tadasana, mountain pose. So we'll work with Utkatasana now, the chair pose. So taking a breath in, raising the arms. Exhale, coming into a half squat now. So not all the way down the way we did for crow pose, but just halfway, and then lifting with the breath in. So you can bring your hands to your thighs. As you sit down, you want to think about hips moving back, chest staying lifted. All right, let's stay a few breaths this time. So you can keep your hands on your thighs if you want the experience of more ease. And if you want the experience of more effort, you can bring the arms up and try to find, of course, the ease in the effort. All right, let's lift up, breathing in and release. Give your legs a little shake. In fact, give everything a little shake. Great. And then we'll come back into that half squat and we'll play around with some different variations with the legs here. So taking a breath in, reaching up. Exhale, half squat. You can bring your hands to your thighs. And then take your hands to your hips and find a little more arch in the back. So you can actually take your fingers into your low back and use that to help lift and find a little arch there. Great. And then from there, you can try coming onto the toes of one foot or lifting that leg, or maybe even stretching it out in front. Try to keep that arch in the back. Good. And then you can try the other side. So lifting, maybe stretching it out. Coming back, release. We'll lift all the way up. And exhale, down. And again, just give a little shake. So we're going to keep going with this. We're moving into another bird, actually, from crow, which we did earlier, to eagle. And it's a very loud motorcycle going by. I'm not sure if the microphone picked that up. It's a little startling over here. Yeah, so the idea with the birds and action, right? And especially with eagle pose. So when we do eagle pose, we're actually stationary. We're holding the pose without really acting. And it's this symbology of the eagle sort of getting focused, right? Getting ready, getting focused and ready to act. And that's the state we're in. We have a direction, we've got our direction pointed, and now we need to get ready to act. So we're going to use the energy of this pose to really put our dreams into that first point of action. So let's play around with the legs a little bit more. So we're going to bend the knees. So you can choose for eagle pose if you want to do one of those versions that we just did, one of those easier versions, just shifting the weight, or if you want to come into this cross position where you cross one leg over the other. And the most sort of, I'm not going to say it's the most important thing, but something that is often sort of overlooked in this pose is that you want to have your standing leg bent. So when you cross your legs over, you don't stand up, but you stay sitting down. And you could even tuck your toes in behind if that's available to you. So toes could tuck behind the opposite calf if that's an option. So you can try that if you haven't been trying that with me already. Shifting to one foot. Right, that could be enough, or if you want to try crossing your legs, that could be enough, or even keeping your toes on the ground for balance. Or you might sit down even more and try to tuck that foot in behind your opposite calf. Right, and then releasing. And again, give a little shake. If you haven't tried the legs on both sides, go ahead and try also on the other side. You might find one side's easier than the other, one side is more challenging, one side's doable, one side isn't. So just take a moment to find your comfort there. And when you feel complete with that, we are going to come back into eagle with the arms as well. So you don't want to burn your legs out right away. So just making sure you're finding your balance. You can always do this pose with your back against the wall. So what you would do, and this is a great way to work on doing the pose without worrying about balance, is you come to your squatting position, you cross, and then we do the arms from there. So let's have a look at what the arms are doing in this pose. So you're just going to be in mountain pose with your feet for now. Arms out to the sides. Bend your elbows a little. Palms forward. And think about taking your elbows back and lifting your heart. Breathe in, and then as you exhale, take your arms, cross them over your body so that you're bringing your hands to opposite shoulders. This might be your eagle arms. Right, so the eagle is about creating some opening in the back body and some focus in the front. If you want more, you can start to bring the arms up. The backs of the hands start to move towards each other in this position. And then the full eagle arms is to take that lower hand and tuck your fingers underneath the base of your thumb. Right, so it looks like this. This is challenging for most people. If you feel pinching in your shoulders or you just can't get there, this is fine, this is fine. Using a sock or a belt to kind of hold your hands in this position is also fine. So you've done that on one side now, let's try it on the other. So opening, find that little lift in the heart, breathe in, exhale, crossing the other arm on top, let the shoulders relax, and then experiment. Do you want to keep your hands on your shoulders, or do you want to try to reach around and come into that more locked position? Right, so either way is fine. And when you feel complete on this side, you're going to take the arms back, interlace your fingers, draw the shoulders down, chest lifts. So my hands are just resting down. I'm not trying to lift them, just creating some space and breathing into that space. Beautiful. And then give everything a little shake. So just let that go. We'll take a big stretch and a yawn. So breathing in, reaching up, yawn or sigh. And release the arms down. Great. So when I work with eagle pose, I always like to set the arms up first. Some people teach the legs first, and you can do it either way. I find that I like to do the arms first because then I can set my arms, get my gaze, and then go into the balance part instead of trying to wobble and balance while I wave my arms around and try and get into the pose. So you can try it that way with me if you like today. So we'll start by taking a breath in, reaching up. Good. As you exhale, come into the half squat. Let your arms come to the sides, bend your elbows. Take a breath in here and open the heart a little. And then exhale, cross your arms and find your eagle arms, whatever they're going to be for you today. And then notice which arm is on top. So I've got my right arm on top, so I'm going to shift my weight to the right foot. For you, if it's the left arm on top, shift to the left. Sit down a little more, and then you can choose with the foot you've released. You can either lift it, you can stretch it out in front, or you can cross it over. Maybe toes to the ground, maybe tucking your foot behind, finding the pose that works for you. And sit down a little more, lift the elbows if you're in the full pose. Breathing. Find your focus, your goal. Eagle eyes on your goal, and then we take action by lifting the knee, lifting the arms, and floating back to earth. Beautiful. So again, you can give a little shake, and we'll try the pose on the other side. So we'll breathe in, lifting the arms. Exhale, bend the elbows as you bend the knees. We're going to stay here and set up the arms. So breathing in again and exhale, cross opposite arm on top now. If you're not sure, you might see if it feels really easy, it's probably the same arm. So now I've got my left arm on top. I'm going to shift my weight to the left foot. Again, you can play around with whichever arm position works for you, but you want to get it set up so you can focus your gaze before coming into the balance. Once there, you can lift your toes, straighten your leg, or cross over. Sit down a little more. If you're in the full arm position, you can try raising the elbows a little bit, lifting the heart, and breathing. Set your eagle eyes on your goal. And then lifting into flight, into action, and landing back in Tadasana. Big breath in, big sigh, let it go. Good. Great, let's take the feet a little bit wider now. Soften your knees, let your body bounce a little bit. You can add a bit of twist, letting the arms swing and sit your body. Beautiful, coming back to the center. Let's do a forward bend, reaching up, breathing in. Big sweeping circle, soft knees, sweeping down to the ground, let your head release. And then sweeping out to the sides, lifting all the way up. And again, exhale, softening forward. Inhale, lifting. Great, next time you end up in that forward bend, I'll invite you to stay. It could be elbows or hands on the thighs or bending forward from the hips. Soften your knees so the lower back can really lengthen. And then you can bring your fingertips to the ground, keeping the feet about shoulder distance apart. Maybe turn the toes slightly out as you come back down into a squat. You can certainly lift your heels if that makes it easier for you. You can keep them down if that's your preferred squat. And then again, maybe rock from one side to the other. If your heels are up, you can bring one heel down and then the other. If the heels are down, you might just stay in the center and really feel a release through your hips. You can try being in the squat, lifting the hands if that's comfortable for you. And then when you're ready to come out, maybe just using your hand to lower yourself down or however you want to get back down to the earth. From here, we're going to lie right down. So take your time. If you're still making your way to the ground, no rush. As you come to the earth, you can join me in this relaxed position on your back, knees pointing at the ceiling, and hands coming to rest on your body. Wherever you can feel a bit of breath. And then after all of that strong standing work, we'll take a moment to let the body settle, to let the breath rate and the heart rate come back to normal. If it's at all elevated from that work. Let your focus now come to your exhalation and feel a sense of letting go of the effort as you exhale, feeling your body settle into the earth. And then you can either leave your hands here on your body or you can let them move away from your body to the ground. We'll bring the knees and the ankles close together now. And we'll start by taking one knee toward the ground on that same side. You'll feel your weight shift likely towards that side, and then you'll bring it back to the center and let the other knee go down. So it's just a very gentle kind of rolling across the back of the pelvis. One knee at a time, opening toward the ground. So you get a little movement in the inner thighs as well as that gentle little bit of twist. Okay, and then as you come back to the center again this time, pause there, knees and ankles together, and now we'll open both knees towards the side. So you can open the knees and then bring them back together. If you want to coordinate your breathing, inhale as you open and exhale as you close. And continue like that in your own time for a few more breaths. And at some point, if you want to stay for a few breaths, you can go ahead and stay. If you prefer to keep moving, go ahead and keep moving. We'll take just another few moments with this movement. Great. And then when you feel complete, if you've been staying in this position, you can slowly bring your knees together. And then bring the knees up in toward your chest. And any movement here that would feel good. So maybe circling the knees or rocking a little side to side. Right, and then coming back to the center, let's bring the feet to the floor. You can take your arms again away from the body and we'll have the feet about hip distance apart now for the twist. So you can take the knees one way, maybe taking the head the other way if that feels good for your neck. And then coming back to center with everything and shifting to the other side. If you want to coordinate breathing, inhale center, exhale as you go to the side. Right, and then Either continuing a few more rounds at your own pace, or if you like, you can stay for a few breaths on each side. Just whenever you feel complete, whenever you feel ready to come back to center, you can go ahead and bring your knees to center. And we'll bring the knees again towards the chest, this time one hand on each knee. And exhaling as you draw the knees towards you. And inhaling as you move the knees away. And you can stay with this movement for several breath cycles, or you can change it up by stretching the arms and legs out and then back in. So you inhale as you stretch out. You can flex your feet if you want a bit more stretch for the back of the legs here after all that standing work, and then back to the chest. Great, and then knees to chest in any movement that would feel good to you. We're going to move now towards Shavasana. So if there's anything that you want to do, anything that would feel good, if you need any props, just go ahead and get what you need, get comfortable. Any movement until you're ready for stillness. And as always, you can be in Shavasana lying down with your legs straight, with your legs bent. You can certainly be in another position if lying on your back isn't comfortable. You can be on your side or on your belly. Tend not to be as aligned for the spine, but better than being uncomfortable, or you can certainly sit. So taking your time. Finding your way to stillness. And coming back to that vision that we've been working with through the class today, that action that you could start to take towards your vision, your goal, taking you towards what you really want. So imagine yourself again taking that one small step, taking that action. Really feeling yourself, visualizing, maybe even the sounds that you might hear as you're doing this one small action. How you might feel. So really locking it into your senses. Taking action. And know that we don't even need to know exactly where we're going to start walking down the path. The path opens itself for us as we commit to it. And if there's no particular action you need to take towards any goal right now, you might just imagine one small action that you could take that's positive and nurturing for you. Like drinking a big glass of water or eating a few more veggies, as I mentioned earlier. So once you have a really clear picture and it feels really solid in your mind, you can see yourself taking this action. Once you feel clear with that, you can go ahead and let it go. Trust that that vision has been implanted in your body, in your brain. And come back to your breath. Tuning in especially to your exhalation and a sense of dropping into the earth with each exhalation. Feeling the support of the ground wherever it rests beneath you and dropping into that support. Feel all of the muscles of your body soften with each exhalation. And particularly now softening the face, the forehead, the scalp, the base of your skull, your jaw, neck and throat, all letting go. Exhaling to relax and soften down into the shoulders, the collarbones, the shoulder blades. Exhale, softening the upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists. Softening your hands right to your fingertips. Letting go, releasing. All the muscles around your rib cage start to relax even more. Feel your belly and lower back soften. Letting go all around the hips and buttocks, dropping into the earth through the pelvis. Softening all around the pelvis, dropping even more. Feeling your thighs release. Your knees, calves, ankles, and feet all letting go. Exhale, sinking down even more, letting go of all effort now, trusting and knowing that the effort that you've put into your practice today with the visualization of action can help propel you forward. Where we put our attention is where we end up going. And I'll share with you a chant that sort of fans the flame of the inner fire to create action from inaction. Om Katyayanaya Vidmahe Kanyakumari Dhimahi Tanno Durge Prachodayat. Om Katyayanaya Vidmahe Kanyakumari Dhimahi Tanno Durge Prachodayat. Om. If you feel ready to start to emerge from Shavasana, you might take a few deep breaths now, deeper breaths. Inviting a sense of aliveness into your cells with your breath. You can add a bit of movement as you're ready. And if you prefer to keep resting, that's great. Just go right ahead. Eventually, you can roll onto one side if you've been lying down. Pause, take your time, support yourself against the ground with your opposite hand to make it really effortless, really easeful to come back to sit. And as you get back to sitting, take your time again to feel grounded. And then we'll take the arms out to the sides. And again, lifting the arms up as if we're gathering our intentions, bringing the hands together and bringing that intention back to the heart. Again, taking a moment to visualize yourself acting on this intention. And trust knowing that taking a step gives it a strong message to the universe that you're committed to your goal. And that the path will show itself as you take those steps along it. Namaste.